when we look at protective estrangement, or what no contact really is it took decades to get there. It's never over a huge fight. You are usually left no other choice. I was actually cut off, which was always the game, is to cancel me and then make me beg back. And I just stopped begging back. But there's all these different types of estrangement. There's a low effort family estrangement where there's not like no contact, but there's no connection. There's no
Hmm.
interest, there's no connection, there's so much abandonment. Like, people don't understand that there's many different types of estrangement.
Did you grow up with an emotionally abusive parent? If you did, you know the pain. Walking on eggshells, hopelessly trying to appease them, and feeling their contempt from miles away. These types of parents leave you wearing invisible scars. Nobody can see them, but you can feel them for a long time. Today, I am thrilled to be joined by Dr. Sherrie Campbell. In this episode, we will be talking about something that's hard to name when you're living it: emotional abuse from the people who raised you. We'll explore how to recognize it, how it shapes the way we move through the world, and what it actually takes to build a home within ourselves after leaving that system behind. Hello, trauma brains. For those that are new, hi, I'm Raisa. I'm a trauma survivor who lives with complex PTSD, and I created this podcast because I know how confusing and isolating healing can feel. Welcome to Hello, Trauma Brain. Here we talk about the ups and downs of healing complex trauma, boundaries, coming to terms with the fact that people I love were abusing me, and what it looks like to heal one slow and tiny step at a time. If you are living with CPTSD or supporting someone who is, this podcast is for you. Welcome, new and returning trauma brains. I am so glad you're here. New episodes are released every other Thursday or as my trauma brain allows. Before we get into this episode, a quick reminder: I am not a mental health professional nor a therapist. Everything shared here is based on my personal experience, and this podcast is not meant to replace or substitute medical support or therapy. If you think you might be living with CPTSD or any other mental health condition mentioned in this podcast, please reach out to a licensed professional who can support you. Any people, services, or resources mentioned in this episode are not sponsors of Hello Trauma Brain, and the views shared by today's guest are their own. Also, this episode may mention trauma or other topics that could feel activating. If at any point you need to pause, take a break, or skip the episode completely, please do what is best for you. Quick check-in for me. So I actually went through a really triggering couple of days. It happened last week, and I'm kind of glad it happened then because otherwise I don't think this episode would have happened. And yeah, it was a humbling moment when you feel like things are getting better and then something happens and you just feel like, oh, wait a second, the CPTSD has not gone anywhere, and that's what happened. I will say, I think I navigated the situation as best as I could. And I have to say, the resources I have were helpful. So I'll spare you the gory details, but there were some issues with the plumbing in my apartment, and the maintenance crew couldn't get here for a few days after it started. And it was just very disruptive to my life. And I don't ever want to go through that again. But I survived it. I'm here in one piece. Now, something that happened that was really interesting, and it happened the morning that they were coming to fix this thing. I could feel my inner kiddo right as I was driving to work, and I was at this red light waiting, and I felt the emotional flashback of, I just don't want to be here anymore. And I could feel my inner kiddo just going like, I'd rather die at this point. Like, what's the point? And she felt so helpless. And I remember I was still at the red light, and like, I'm pretty proud of myself for this. I managed between whatever seconds or minute I was sitting there to kind of connect with her and say, I know that growing up, it felt like we were going to die. I know that growing up for you, it felt like we were never going to make it out of this. And of course, you feel like that again because it's been days and we're frustrated. And this is very helpless right now because we don't know how to fix it ourselves. But I think we're really close and we don't have to die. And this time around, I'm here now and I'm not going to let this kill us. Okay. And I had that little moment of just like talking to her in my car by myself. And I was about 2 minutes from work. And by the time I got to work, I didn't feel like that anymore. So I'm taking stock of how, even though the symptoms are still there and it still pops up, I have tools that don't let me completely sink. And I was able to work. And by the time that I got home for lunch, it was fixed. And it definitely helped. I think had it not been fixed, it would have been a little bit harder to navigate that emotional flashback. But sharing that with you all, because I feel like when you're in the middle of it, it feels so overwhelming and so helpless. And I feel like the more I do this work, the more that feeling can be managed, not completely disappear, but managed in a reasonable amount of time. So I wanted to share that with you as a way of showing that I'm still having the symptoms. It's still something that I live with every day, but it can be managed and there are tools and resources, and having a reasonable and manageable life is possible. Now let's get into the episode. I am so thrilled. The first guest for 2026 is here, and it is the Dr. Sherrie Campbell. I cannot believe I scored yet another guest, and a guest that has a very significant following compared to me. And it just blows my mind when any guest comes into the podcast. It's not about the following, it's about the guest. But yeah, I got Dr. Sherrie on the podcast. So let me tell you a little bit more about Dr. Sherrie for those of you that are new to hearing about her. Dr. Sherrie is a licensed psychologist who spent over 20 years helping people untangle toxic family dynamics and rebuild their lives on the other side. She's the author of 5 books, including But It's Your Family, Cutting Ties with Toxic Family Members, and Loving Yourself in the Aftermath. Her latest book is Adult Survivors of Emotionally Abusive Parents, which I listened to. And let me tell you, she narrates the audiobook and it's an excellent, excellent book. Her upcoming book, You Are Home, Heal from Family Trauma, Establish Boundaries, and Find a Place of Peace and Safety, is available for pre-order and will be released on April 1st, 2026. Dr. Sherrie is known for her direct, compassionate approach to cutting ties when staying would cost you your peace. Beyond her practice in Orange County, she reaches thousands through her writing for Entrepreneur and Huffington Post, and through her daily presence on social media, where she offers what she calls free therapy, real talks for people doing the hard work of loving themselves after a lifetime of conditional kindness. Dr. Sherrie is also a fellow podcaster, and she is the host of Therapy Sessions, Cutting Toxic Family Ties. She gets it because she's lived it, and that groundedness comes through in everything she does. Hope you enjoyed this episode, and without further delay, here's my conversation with Dr. Sherrie Campbell. All right, survivors, I am so thrilled to finally introduce to you to Dr. Sherrie Campbell. Dr. Sherrie, thank you so much for joining me for this conversation. How are you feeling today?
I'm great. I'm excited for the interview and, to spread the word on whatever your mission is and to learn more about that. So thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I'm delighted to have you here. And I was hoping to start with sort of like the beginning, because I've listened to your latest book and I know that you're also a survivor. And I was wondering if you could share, like, how did you realize that you were being abused by your own parent?
So I have like 3 books out of forthcoming, all on family. I've got 3 other books too, but I always knew something was wrong. I mean, there's 9 marriages between my parents. That was a little maybe easier for me to call out, but it took me a very long time to recognize that they were really controlling and mean and cruel and critical and off balance and immature. It took me a very long time. I didn't cut ties for 45 years. I mean, it really, and I wanted a good relationship with them. So I hung in and I tried and I tried. And then that bandwidth breaks. And it saved my life for sure to cut them out.
Thank you for sharing even the time that it took you, because I feel like for a lot of us, it depends so much on the circumstances. And I
Yeah.
remember like 10 years ago, I had no idea. I was still in it thinking they were the most amazing people in my life. And that's how I would talk about them. And I'm so proud of you for making that decision, because I know it's so, so hard. I wonder, once you made this decision, is there any tool or resources you found helpful to help you navigate that beginning period?
No, because no one had written on it. I'm the only person or expert at that point that had even written. So my first book, But It's Your Family, talks about what led up to it and how it happened. Then Adult Survivors of Toxic Family Members goes into all the post-separation abuse,
Mhm.
um, and all the things I was going through that I didn't know I could go through because no one had written about it yet. I'm the only one. So I was writing my experience as I went along. Um, and so I had to come up with my own tools and my own ways to heal. I was in therapy. My therapist was helpful in helping me build the tools that we were creating on our own because they really weren't out there. So I did pull from previous estrangement literature that at that time looked at estrangement as you still need to have some tie, and I was
Mm.
beyond that. So,
Mhm.
and then I ended up on the TEDx stage with doing this. So it's really gone far. Um, but I post separation abuse was very, very painful for 5 years. It was a very sadistic experience. I'm just doing anything they could to starve me back, hurt me back, gang everyone, smear me to the world. I lost everyone and everything familiar to me. Um,
Oh.
and I don't know how I would have survived without my therapist because she was like a safe space for me.
Mhm.
She didn't fully understand what I was going through because she did not live it, but she understood enough to know how to support me. And so I started writing my books as I was going through it so that no one else would be alone the way I was.
I wanna, for a moment, take a second to say thank you for doing that because those resources are so needed. I'm amazed that you were able to navigate that when there was nothing that you could look at or no other modeling behind it or
No.
guidance, and I'm glad that your therapist was there for you. And I did wanna talk about something that I heard on your TEDx talk, which I was as I was getting ready to I was able to see it, and I have to say, I don't think I remember ever seeing a TEDx talk with the crowd would be, like, wooing, and it was incredible.
Can I tell you, I had it, TEDx talks are memorized. They're not like bullet
Mm,
pointy. And so you have this giant clock, like a 60-inch screen counting down your time. Okay. And so I'm really good one-on-one. I'm great on TV. I'm great on camera, but me in front of a bunch of people,
mhm.
I know that when they post that they slowed me down because I was like, so I didn't know people could cheer. So if they were
Okay.
like hooting and like hollering and having it on YouTube, they actually they dimmed that background sound because I was talking so fast.
Oh,
And I was so shocked. I'm like, oh no, no, no. I don't want to lose my place.
mhm,
I don't wanna lose my place. But I was like, it made me feel so good because on this topic, I'm like, am I gonna get stoned
mhm,
and kicked out of the theater? Or am I it's like it was amazing. And then there was this huge line of people after the talk that waited to talk to me to the point that I couldn't get through the line of people. It was
mm,
just wild. And I was just like, oh my God, I can't believe I did this. I can't believe this topic got on stage. I can't
mhm,
believe that I'm getting this reception. I'll have almost 500,000 views. I mean, the average TED Talk gets like 300. I'm like, I just want to get 500.
mm.
I get 500 views. I'm gonna be so happy and so excited, right? I just did something I didn't know it could do. So wild.
I I have to say I'm happy to hear that was your experience because the topic is still very much taboo and there's a lot of noise out there, especially right now.
Oh, yeah.
And there were so many things you've said during your TEDx talk, but there was one in particular where I was like hooting over here from my kitchen as I was listening to it. It's your emphasis on, like, the DNA and how it means to not abuse, and I was hoping to have you define because I something I love about the title of your recent book is that you call it what it is. Like, I know that they're emotionally immature and, like, a lot of them, like, that's the baseline.
They're abusive. Why are we softening this stuff? It's
Yeah.
child abuse.
Exactly, exactly. And I love that you called it in your book emotionally abusive parents, because that's what they are, abusive. Are you able to define for someone who's like new to this, like what is an actual emotionally abused parent? Like what does it look like?
It doesn't look abusive.
Hmm.
That's the problem. My mom
Yeah.
runs charities for burned kids and cancer kids.
Mm-hmm.
I have a home devil, and she's some kind of angel out in the world. And if anything goes wrong, she plays the victim. But, emotionally abusive parents, they are coercively controlling, they triangulate, they gossip, they smear, they stonewall you, they give you the silent treatment. Um, you know, they manipulate you financially, they get too involved in your relationships. They don't like anyone you date, they don't like your friends, or they like everyone better than you. I mean, the list could go on and on and on. Unfortunately, many serial killers don't look like serial killers. Many are what we think they're going to look like. Abusive parents hide out even more obscurely than a serial killer
Hmm.
because people just assume parents would never abuse their children. So it gives them a free pass to get away with anything they want.
That's it. And it's absurd, honestly.
Totally.
It's this, like, if you think about a parent, like, that is the person you see the most, that you interact with the most. And if they are abusive, then you're being abused 24/7.
Exactly. And you have to also think of the vulnerability of the child, right? Children, all children want to have the best relationship they can possibly have with their parent, which gives this parent the most incredible opportunity
Hmm.
to self actualize and to have a relationship with someone who is built and designed to only want to have the best relationship with you possible. And if you take advantage of that, you don't want to do that because you're going to lose your kids.
Yeah, that's it. And even if you don't lose them, your kids lose themselves in the process of being exposed to you, which is what happens to a lot of survivors that has
Happens to
they
every
they're-
survivor.
yeah, exactly right. It's exactly right.
The loss of
I
self is the biggest sacrifice of wanting to have the best relationship with your parent that you can have.
Yeah,
Self-sacrifice.
yeah. It's to me, it's taking advantage of that, because children, like, when you're little and you're in this situation, you need these people. That's why betrayal blindness kicks in, because you need to see them as people that you can still be around with. Like if you don't have them and you're shunned at the age of 5 and you're out in the streets, you're done.
You're done.
It's very cruel, and I like that you call it what it is. And there are a few things from your latest book, and I just want to, like, take a moment to ask you about the defensive hypervigilance trauma, because that I've been doing this work for a few years, and that's the first time I heard someone describe it so accurately.
I
And I
made
was
it
hope
up.
I'm glad you did. Honestly, because it gives, like, what we're missing constantly, especially with the emotional abuse, is language and something that defines it. Because when you're in it and it's so normalized, you don't see it. And for anyone who's like me, like, hearing this term for the first time, what do you mean by this type of trauma?
So I was always wrong. I was the scapegoat in the family. So I was wrong when I wasn't wrong. Like I was
Mm,
being wronged for things my sibling did or my mother did, I was always wrong. So I became so sensitive to being wrong that I
mhm,
had to really work on understanding what that would mean because I was accused of being wronged so often when I wasn't wrong and didn't matter how much I tried to fight for my truth or put it out there. I'd get gaslit and, told all kinds of awful things to me about me. I was just a dumping trash can for the family. So as an adult, I was so afraid of being wrong that I tried too hard to be good. And then if someone was telling me I was wrong, I had a hard time receiving it because I would just get into this hypervigilance of like, because to be honest with you, I have such a pure heart that it's not that I don't do anything wrong, but I try so hard not to do anything wrong,
yeah,
right? That
yeah,
I don't do things wrong very often because it's just drilled into me. Um,
mhm,
I did have to learn the difference between someone giving me loving feedback that's helpful and somebody just accusing me unfairly. And that was hard because I was so defensive. I was so hyper vigilant of like protecting myself from being wrong when I wasn't, that I had a hard time understanding the difference between that and like loving feedback, helpful loving feedback.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think part of it is like these types of people, they wreck making mistakes. They wreck
Yes.
any feedback. So like for me, and something I've been working in therapy is like seeing mistakes as lessons, opportunities to learn something new. And like when I reframe it that way, it feels a little bit less like stingy, because before, like a mistake was like, I cannot afford to make a mistake. Like a mistake that is not just something bad, it makes me shameful and bad. And untangling that, I feel like it's can be so powerful, but it can be so painful and hard when you've been wired to be treated like that so much, to the point like I feel like even hearing you talk, like I can hear how we do this to ourselves too,
Hmm.
even after they're gone or after we've cut ties or limited contact with them. I curious to hear also about another concept you had in your recent book, and is about the toxic parent abuse victim syndrome, which I again, it's one of those things where like you hear it and you go, "Oh my gosh, all these things in my life start making sense, and there's a name for it." Can you also explain what that means for people who are getting in the basically starting their journey and trying to realize what the heck is going on?
And this syndrome can work both ways, right? But
Oh.
mostly, you know, you end up having a cluster of symptoms of coming from toxic parents,
Mhm.
and defensive hypervigilance trauma being one of them, deep insecurity, don't trust people. Like you get these cluster of symptoms. But I've also, since I've written that book, recognized that like my mother plays the victim as the starring role to get out of any accountability,
Mm.
and she acts
Mhm.
out a cluster of symptoms. So it can actually now, in hindsight, I just didn't have that insight at the time, work both ways. But we do come out with just this array of fears and insecurities that are syndrome like abandonment,
Mhm.
fear, a lack of worthiness, fears of confrontation, fears of conflict, just peacekeeping, eggshell
Mhm.
walking. And I
Yeah.
gotta say, 10 years out now, um, some of those things today I can use as superpowers, because
Mm.
now today they're not reactionary for me. Um, but they did really help me survive at that time in my life when I was being abused. I can catch them now when they arise. I don't like, for example, negotiating lease contracts. Like my lease is up at my office, and I don't like doing that salesy back and forth type of stuff. But I recognize, like, okay, that just feels like conflict to me. What comes up
Mhm.
is like, I don't want to be a pain in their ass. I don't
Mhm.
want to ask for too much. That all comes in that syndrome. Don't ask for too much. Don't need too much. Just give people what they want so you can have peace and blah, blah, blah. So
Mhm.
I try to force myself to go back and forth a little bit, giving and taking. And so
Mhm.
having that type of an awareness of yourself, that's why I like giving names to things,
Mhm.
is that it allows you to locate yourself emotionally so that you can go, wait, am I overdoing it right now? Am I
Mhm.
operating in this way? Or should I just force myself to be a little stronger and go back a little bit, just see what they say?
Mhm.
Things like that. So they can be superpowers because all of these things help make us self aware.
I love that, and I think you're right in terms of like hearing you say like how a lot of this stuff, and this has been like most of my journey for the longest time. I wanted to like stop fawning. Like I don't ever want to fawn ever again in my life. And Dr. Ingrid Clinton was here on the podcast, and like we were talking about the concept of like you're not supposed to never fawn ever again. Fawning
Right.
is
Yeah.
a really good trauma response. Like it
A
can
good
help you get through
resource.
the thing.
Yeah.
And It's about fawning when it is appropriate, not 24/7, which is where I was. I think that as I hear you talk, like something that a lot of us struggle is like that we didn't get the modeling for like advocating for ourselves. And I feel it too. Like every time my apartment lease comes back or anything, I just kind of want to like disappear. Like even like asking for the maintenance to come fix something that's going on. Like I'm so tempted to like go on like ask AI or Google, like how do I do this myself? And I have to
Exactly.
remind
Cat,
myself,
what do I do?
right, right. It's like, it's their job. That's why I pay rent here, so they can come fix it and like letting them do their job.
Yeah.
Who knew?
No, it does. It affects when you're affected to your core.
Mhm.
That's why I consider it a syndrome. I don't think it's a disorder, but I certainly think it's a syndrome.
Yeah.
Um, I have made it my goal to make every one of those aspects of that syndrome into superpowers
Mhm.
because each one of those things saved my life at some point. Now, defense mechanisms we develop as children, they don't really work as adults. So, people pleasing might have saved my life as a kid, but it kicked my ass as an adult. So, we
Mm.
should be, as we're maturing, we should be outgrowing certain defense mechanisms and replacing them with its either more mature counterpart, which is learning to be assertive or getting your needs met in a way of kindness, right? So
Mhm.
without pleasing, still stating your need, asking questions is a great thing. Uh,
Mhm.
yeah, so it's learning to turn those things into superpowers because the thing that we do get that they don't realize we're getting is we are developing EQ very quickly because we have to.
Mhm.
So that EQ essentially will develop so much to a point that your self awareness will get to that place where you're like, I'm done, done.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then you can start to access those syndromey symptoms and be like, okay, how can I utilize this in a different way? How can I take this and give it a makeover?
Mhm.
Right. And use people pleasing in an assertive way while still getting
Mhm.
my needs met while also not being unkind.
I love that. And for a second, I want to take that and like pull that thread because what I'm thinking about as I hear you talk is reclaiming these things that are actually like gifts and like things that do give us an advantage. They were toxified by these people,
Yeah.
and to have
Repurpose.
exactly. Absolutely. And there's one thing I did wanted to talk to you about, which is the concept of hope, because a lot of us, and this is definitely true for me, I have stayed in situations that I had no business staying in for as long as I did because I had this toxic hope that if I got it right, everything would change or something would happen and their problems would get fixed and all of a sudden it would fall into place. And I had to like rewind and like re-listen to the section on rebellious hope in your latest book because I love that. Feel like a lot of us get shamed for that hope. Like, oh,
Oh,
how can you still hope? Can you talk about rebellious hope and how that has transformed the concept of hope for
mhm.
you?
Well, hope in its natural state is probably the most magical emotion. I mean, what is
Mm,
Disneyland built on? Theoretically, it's all on hope and dreams. So when you manipulate that most innocent, magical emotion in a child, you are a predator.
mm,
Okay. And then hope turns to dope. Like it becomes your addiction. You get doped up on hope, but it becomes your rope. It will hang
mm,
you
yeah.
because you're having hope in such an innocent way. And you're also directing hope at people who should love you. So you never really get to learn what hope is. What I realized after the relationships there ended is I needed to have a very rebellious hope in myself, in my resiliency, in my tenacity, in my ability to do this life all alone.
Hmm.
Um, and that hope felt a lot different than the magical Disneyland hope. It felt more purpose driven, forced. I had to force that hope.
Mm,
It wasn't something I naturally had. It was something I had to do. I had to choose hope in me.
hmm.
And I had support. So I have a wonderful man in my life because I lost anything and everyone close to me due to my family,
Mm,
um, family, friends, everything. So I really had to choose hope and to be very rebellious And when I say rebellious, I think that the truth always comes out when in a quiet way.
Hmm.
So
Yes.
I started writing books. I started speaking truth to trauma, but I did it with moccasins on, nice and quiet,
Mm,
strategic, hidden, but loud, in the sense that I was forced to suffer in silence. So I'm going to use my voice and I'm going to heal out loud.
mhm,
And I'm a great have a great publisher. Followed the laws in terms of me being able to tell my story and not get sued.
mhm,
Uh, Followed all those laws, did all the proper things. And yeah,
mhm.
so I've got a book now dropping in April. I just signed a book contract yesterday for my low effort series that went viral. So
Wow.
that's how I've become rebellious. You can journal, but really be happy. If you really want to be rebellious, make sure that you commit to having a life without them that is happy, not because of them, but because they're not in it.
Mm,
They're not relevant anymore. They
mm,
don't define you, they don't decide you, they don't influence you. They are not relevant. Go live your best life.
mm. Can take a moment and like you might need to rewind that. Anybody listening to this, like that was so good. You can frame
Thank
that.
you.
I okay. I did also want to. I'm curious. Are you able to talk about your upcoming book yet and what we can
Yeah.
expect from it? Okay,
Yes.
tell me more.
So it's called You Are Home. I think it will forever be my most favorite book I've ever written. My writing is expanding as I am. It's much less clinical and far more metaphorical because I wanted to take what I do in my office and put it into a book, but that is not a workbook. It's a very readable book, and it's the metaphor of a house. And this book is going to take you through the thick of it when you're in it. See, I've had to do everything in hindsight because when I was in it, I was in it without a compass. So this book's really a compass, but it's really about integration, integrating your inner world and your sense of groundedness with the relationships that are outside your house, on your porch, your yard, your fence, and your barriers. And there are emotional crime scenes that you unpack in the basement through accountability lists to the people that hurt you, who packed all their crimes in your basement because they don't want to look at it or own it. You find your 5 core wounds that I call your basement monsters, and you need to really learn to love your monsters. Those are the voices of your inner child. When something in your relationship world goes off, one of those monsters is going to pull an alarm. You
Hmm.
need to go down, visit with that monster so it doesn't break out and like go out to the yard and, annihilate
Mm,
someone. We have to learn to
right.
regulate our reactions and our emotions. And then there's a top floor that's all glass. It's all about dreaming. It's all about manifesting. And there is an express elevator. If you get triggered, you can be on the top floor and you crash land in the basement. You got to
Mm,
go with your monster and your middle floor mindfulness, but you're never going backward. You're going inward. It's another opportunity to heal your soul, to visit with your monsters. Um, they're your greatest allies. And this book is just magical in terms of what it can do to heal. My patients all walk in like, oh, a monster got out of my basement. I'm like, no, what happened? Right. So it's sort of a fun language. I think that the brain loves images and photos. I've been an elite athlete my whole life. Every great
mm,
coach I've had gave me great metaphors. I think
mm,
we feel a little bit better when it's not so doctory feeling. The metaphors are so powerful.
mhm,
It's really a beautiful, sort of like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, but in a workable house. And I'm giving you a workstation to rebuild and reclaim home.
mm.
Your idea of home, you're going to reclaim so that now you are home. This is your home, no one else's.
Wow. I'm so excited to hear about this book because for starters, you have such a great voice and you're a podcaster. So I was not shocked to hear you narrating your own book. And I was like, it's so relatable. What I love about how you write is that the expertise is important, but I feel like the metaphors is where I thrive
Yeah.
Because when I read the definition of gaslighting, it kind of goes over my head. I've talked about this. But if I get examples of what gaslighting looks like, then I go all of a sudden, oh shit, I've been gaslit my entire life.
Yeah.
And I love this concept of using the house as a metaphor. That's fucking brilliant. I've used the house as a metaphor for boundaries, but I love how you've expanded on it. Just hearing you talk about it
Yeah,
right
the
now.
boundaries are the porch, the yard, the fence, and the
Mm,
barriers, right?
yeah. Yeah. Wow.
And it's, but you got to go down and make people accountable for what they did to you and not keep a black mold growing in your basement. Get it the fuck out. You don't need to send it back to them. You don't need to return to sender. Just take it to the dump and burn it. It's
Mm,
like I don't feel estranged anymore because
wow.
I don't have pain. They're not relevant to me.
Mm,
They have
mm-hmm.
no relevancy in my life. They have no influence. It's been 10 years. They don't even know me. They never wanted to know me. They don't have a seat in my theater. They're just not relevant. I don't hate them. In fact, I love them. I don't like them, but I
Mm-hmm.
love them. I don't have, I cannot be bothered with wishing these people harm. I can't be bothered with any of it. I just don't feel estranged. That's a
Mm,
painful place to be. I feel self identified. I have reclaimed my idea of home inside my own self in a very integrated way. And that is what this new book is designed to do, is to bring you home out of the mud, out of the basement, with knowledge, with awareness of your emotional location, with knowing where everyone is located emotionally in your life and why they are there.
mm.
So
Wow.
it's a flexible system. Um, it is just, it's really a wonderful way to really come home to yourself in the sense that you always wanted to feel in your house as a child that you never got.
Wow. Ah, Dr. Sherry. I can't wait. When is this book coming out? Because I
April 1st.
April
It's ready
1st.
for
Is it
pre-order
available for
now.
pre-order?
It's ready for
Okay.
pre-order. Yeah. So
We
get
are
on it.
definitely going to put the link for that in the show notes for anyone
Thank
who's interested. I'm going to be pre-ordering this because I love this because I feel like the thing that we struggle with, and I'll speak for myself here, is belonging and find a place where we finally feel at home and like we belong there. And this book sounds like an amazing tool to
This
help us
book
get there.
welcomes you home. We
Mm.
clear the cobwebs. I make the basement very safe because no one wants to go in a basement alone. I mean, every horror movie is like, don't do that, which
Yeah,
is
I hate
why
them.
our family members shove their emotional crimes into our basement.
Mm,
We have to unpack those crime scene boxes, look at emotional crimes, being acted out against us, making them accountable through a list making process that I do, organizing the shelves,
mm,
making the monsters a nice cozy place to live.
mm,
Those are the voices of your inner child. Um, and every section in the book has journaling prompts so
mm,
that you can take what you've read and integrate it into your body and integrate it into your nervous system and your psyche and your awareness so that you can start practicing these things. I really want people to get to where I'm at, where, I mean, people might label me as estranged. I don't. I
mhm,
label myself as home. I'm self-integrated at this point. Um, Never been happier. Never have I been happier than I am in my life right now. And I have no hatred toward my family. My
mhm,
soul, for whatever reason, contracted this life with them. I accept that. I feel like I've done my very best to accomplish the very difficult task that this life was going to ask me to take on, which
mhm.
would be to go against societal norms and do some things. So I've been writing as I've been going along, and I'm the first expert to ever put no contact into the literature in the family arena. So, but It's Your Family was my breakout book, and But It's Your Family did that. So now it's like a whole thing.
It's incredible to hear you talk about this. And I have to point out, I am yet to meet someone who's estranged, and this goes for me too. I yet to meet someone or feel like I regret it, you know? Everyone who's done it, it's painful as hell. Yeah, it fucking hurts, but yeah, thumbs up. Like your life does get better.
Your
And
life does get better. My first 5 years were excruciating, and I talk about that in my second book, which is Adult Survivors of Toxic Family Members. Just the
mhm,
post separation abuse was sadistic. and relentless for about 5 years. So that was really hard. Those were a hard 5 years. My rebirth day is June 12th. That's when it all ended 10 years ago. And I call it my rebirth day because I was reborn on that day into a life that's very singular. And I like that better than my birthday. So
Mm.
I celebrate it every year. I go out, I have myself some cake, have myself some
Heck yeah.
blow it out. I celebrate my rebirth day. And I just don't think, there is life after estrangement. Um, and I don't feel estranged because they're not relevant. I can only be estranged from something that's relevant,
Mm-hmm.
and they're not relevant
Wow.
anymore. And that to me just feels like freedom. They're in the world, they're living their lives, they're doing
Mm-hmm.
the things that they're doing, and
Mm-hmm.
more power to them. But their life doesn't have any relevance anymore for mine. There's nothing to draw on except me continuing moving forward and being in the passionate pursuit of my healing journey.
Thank you so much for sharing what it feels like. 'Cause I'm 3 years in and like I'm still in the struggle part.
Girl, you're still
And
in like, you're just still gestating. Again, it was
yep.
5 years of torture for me. So I do understand. Yep.
Yeah, it's hard, and I feel like in especially now where there's a lot of noise about all the reasons we should not be doing these things and we should be shamed for it, it's good to hear what people who are actually doing it are feeling
Well,
as they're 10 years down.
let's be clear about what's going on in our society is that people are mixing up and confusing all estrangement as no contact.
Mm,
No contact is only one form of estrangement. I've renamed it now as protective estrangement.
mhm,
But there's also um, parent-led estrangement. There's also scapegoating estrangement. There's parent alienation estrangement. Then there's cancel culture, which everyone has cancel culture mixed up with no contact, but there's been incredible differences between the two.
mhm,
When you look at it, it's cancel culture is driven by conflict. It's reactionary. It's public. It's right now. It's about pressure, gang up warfare. I don't like that you did this. I never want to see you again. It's a tantrum. What it used to be called was the silent treatment. Okay. And that's what my mother did to me all the time. When we look at protective estrangement, or what no contact really is it took decades to get there.
yep,
It's never over a huge fight. You are usually left no other choice. I was
mhm,
actually cut off, which was always the game, is to cancel me and then make me beg back. And I just stopped begging back.
wow,
But there's all these different types of estrangement. There's a low effort family estrangement where there's not like no contact, but there's no connection. There's no
mhm,
interest, there's no connection, there's so much abandonment. Like, people don't understand that there's many different types of estrangement. And what the Oprah show did, unfortunately, is she lumped all estrangement under no contact, when most of the things that were talked about on that show are cancel culture or parent
mm,
alienation. There's also scapegoating estrangement.
mm,
Parent alienation is forced. Scapegoats are forced out. It's not done by choice. Cancel culture is an immature reactionary response. Parent led estrangement is another one where the parents don't like that you're getting independent. They see it as anti family. So
right,
they cut
yep,
you off because you don't love your family anymore. You'd rather be somewhere else. So it's like 7 different types.
wow.
But I didn't create this until the Oprah show because I didn't know. So I made that up.
And I'm glad you did. And I've heard you talk about this before, and even hearing you now, I'm like, there's new things that I'm realizing. Like even like maybe 3 years is actually not an accurate definition for what my estrangement journey is. And I could talk to you for a long time. Let me tell you. I know we need to start wrapping it up soon. So I wanted to make sure I ask you something that I ask from all our guests, and I'm gonna do a little twist on it because something I loved in your book was the moments of truth.
Yes.
And yes, and I was hoping to hear if you could go back, time machine takes you to a difficult time. What moment of truth would you give little Sherry?
Run,
Hmm, I love
run,
that. Run. Mm,
get out.
and run she will.
Yeah, she will. She's fast. Just run. I ran when I ran. It took me 45 years. I'm going to be 55 in April. I don't regret the time because I genuinely really wanted to have the best relationship with my parents and sibling that I could have.
Hmm.
It was not in the cards for me. I think I did my time. I think 4.5 decades is a really long time to sacrifice myself for people who don't love me. And I'm done. I'm done doing that. But yeah, if I could have told her, like, you're going to be okay, just run, get out.
Mm.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sherrie. For
So
anyone who's new to hear about you, how can people find you and learn more about your work?
So my website's drsherriecampbell.com. Sherrie's Sherrie. There's a million ways to spell my name. And then I'm Dr. Sherrie on both Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. So you can find me in all those areas.
Wonderful. I'm going to link everything to the show notes so you'll be able to reach out to Dr. Sherrie. If you want to learn more, follow her and support her work. I want to say to you, Dr. Sherrie, I want to take a moment to acknowledge your work for being a pioneer, for taking what happened to you and reclaiming your life and producing the stuff that you needed, those resources, those books, your content, your podcast, everything you do is just in service of helping people like me. So thank you so much for what you're doing. And thank you for being here today and joining me for this conversation.
Oh my God, you're welcome. You're such an angel.
Thank you.
You're really, truly just so angelic, and I love that you're starting your life in this way, and you're doing this through your podcast. And I'm honored to be here. I think you're such a special soul. So thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Dr. Sherrie. So delight having you here and your little kiddo as well. And again, everyone, I'm going to link everything to the show notes. And thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, honey.
Thank you. Hello, trauma brains. Checking in. How are you feeling after my conversation with Dr. Sherrie? I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. In this episode's healing invitation, I want to offer you a few things to reflect about. What does being home mean to you? Are there parts of yourself that you have been avoiding? Are there people in your life that are taking your peace away? If you are a survivor of emotional abuse, you know the pain. Sometimes it can feel like that pain will never end. And that feeling makes sense. When we were young, it did feel endless because at the time it was. But now, as you continue your healing journey, the relationship you have with yourself can change. I invite you to reflect on how you can reconnect with parts of yourself that you had to put away to survive. Please let me know how this episode's healing invitation goes if you choose to accept it. Before we wrap up this episode, all music and production is courtesy of yours truly. And I'd love to share a few ways you can help support the podcast. You can subscribe and leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, or wherever you're listening. Share this episode with anyone you think might find it helpful. Follow the podcast on Instagram at Hello Trauma Brain. Subscribe to the Hello Trauma Brain YouTube channel and hit the notification bell to be the first to know when new episodes go live. And if you like, you can also make a donation via PayPal. Thank you in advance for your support. Even a little goes a long way in helping this podcast reach more survivors who could benefit from this content. No worries, links to everything will be in the show notes. It is time for our farewell affirmations. I invite you to repeat after me. I welcome the belief that I am enough. I am lovable. And I deserve to heal. Thank you for joining me and Dr. Sherrie today. We hope you found this episode helpful. For those of you watching on YouTube, there will be links coming on the screen shortly that you can use to subscribe and check out more episodes. I wish you the best as you find your way back home, and I will see you next time.